So I thought I would start a video information stuff to see if it could be helpful to anybody who is also going through MS or other similar symptoms or trying medications that might overlap with MS. But I'm a person, I recently was diagnosed last year with MS in April 2022. So it's been a little bit over a year since I have been diagnosed with our MS, or the relapsing version of it, which is called relapsing remitting MS. There we go. Not good with names of things. But more or less, that's the one that is a little bit usually less aggressive than some of the other types. Mine isn't very aggressive at all, and they caught it very, very early comparatively to other situations. I'm 25-ish, going to be 26-ish soon. So I was 24 when they were able to diagnose it. So for me, I have 4 lesions, which compared to other people, that's not bad at all. And so having it be caught with only 4 lesions is pretty great. In January or December of 2021, I started having lower extremity numbness extremely on my right side from the waist down here, and that caused other symptoms like sensation problems with cold, so anything cold touched my leg, it felt like burning, like someone had taken a hot iron and went psh. I was like, oh, that's probably not the best thing to be experiencing. So went to the ER for that a couple of times in the few months before getting a referral. As someone with a history of other chronic conditions, GI problems, IBS, and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome symptoms, chronic pain, chronic pain. I wasn't sure necessarily what was causing the symptoms that I was experiencing at the time. Those symptoms slowly got worse, where from right here down on the right side, it was numb, couldn't feel anything for a long time. There was a lot of weakness, and I had trouble walking, and I had a lot of lower back pain and spasming in my legs and lower back. At the time I was attending college, but I was attending college at the time, walking to classes and all that kind of stuff, so it made it quite difficult to attend college at the time. But anyways, back to what I was saying, wasn't sure to what extent the symptoms were caused by. Got an MRI of my lower back because that was lower back and my hip to see if there's anything with that. They found bulging discs, but said that the severity would not be causing the symptoms that I was experiencing. Eventually went to a spine doctor. A spine doctor referred me to neurology after doing a full spine MRI and seeing an artifact in my T2 to T4 area, like right here. And that was the active lesion in my spinal cord at the time. From there on, I got an MRI of my head after getting some appointments at neurology at UVM, that found 2 more in my frontal lobe areas. Those were not active. Those wounds were past activity that had happened previously in the past. Um, so after that, I joined a research study. I was a part of that, put me into a couple trial things, and I picked the no-name brand of Capaxone to start with that. 40 milliliters every 48 hours through injection. It's a subcutaneous, and I did that for about a year, more or less, until recently. Got my first 6 month MRI, clean, nothing new. Still had some activity in the lesion on my spinal cord, which in hand caused the symptoms to continue in my leg and lower extremities. Have improved greatly since the beginning of that. But moving on from that, my next MRI 6 months later showed a new lesion and activity in my prefrontal cortex. Very new lesion, high activity. So going to be switching over to a new medication in the future. In the last couple months, I've had a slight increase of pain, fatigue, and depression. Mostly fatigue, and the pain is back pain, stiffness, coordination problems, slightly. Nothing necessarily too extreme, but would be explained by the new active lesion in my brain. Hello. Just going to go a little bit more in detail on the diagnosis process that I went through for getting diagnosed with MS. Took probably about 4 months to get diagnosed with it, because I had other chronic conditions, so I mean, firstly an MRI of my lower spine. That was a quick MRI, no contrast, and found the bulging discs. Then they did another MRI of my neck, and they didn't find anything, and there was no contrast. Then they moved me, got a referral to a spine doctor, and then they did a full cervical spine, thoracic spine, and the lower back spine. I forgot what that one's called. From here down, again, no contrast. Found bulging discs, and then a possible artifact in there. So they got me again into an MRI, full head, cervical spine down, with contrast, and found the lesion. So that was 3 MRIs at that point, and that was probably like 2 MRIs for 1 month, and then another 2 MRIs for the next month in January and February. And then I got a referral into neurology, because the way that the contrast looked made it look like that it was not a solid mass on my spinal cord, which pointed towards a lesion, and that usually puts you in the category of immuno disorder and messy stuff. So sent me to the MS clinic in the neurology section of the hospital at UVM. I got that referral, took a little bit. Finally got there probably around like March, April, got the appointment. They got me another MRI, top to bottom again, with contrast this time. Even my head, this time to check for lesions in the brain, which was one of the diagnostic criteria. Because if only just having a spinal lesion wasn't necessarily criteria for that, but having multiple lesions, especially one in the spinal cord and some in the brain, and then having older ones and newer ones, seeing that it's a different, you know, having a relapses and remitted instead of just a one-off lesion, which is an MS group of having a one-off can happen, or having another disorder that looks like MS, but having multiple relapses and readmissions, so having 3 lesions in total at the time, and it not being very aggressive at this time. They were like, all right, that's definitely MS. And diagnosed me with MS, and then started me into getting into the research stuff. If I was interested, of course I was interested. That's fun stuff. In my opinion, research is cool, and I want to help as much as I can with that kind of thing. But yeah, so that is the diagnosis process that I kind of went through. Took, it was pretty quick comparatively to other people possibly that I've seen, and it's definitely gotten quicker as new technology and knowledge has come out for MS. But because I did have the spinal lesion, it was definitely found a little bit quicker than if it had only been lesions in the brain. But anyways, that is the diagnosis process that I went through. Everyone's got different stuff, but that's just